And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast, previewing the 2021 Farmers Insurance Open in La Jolla, California. Make our way just a little farther down the coast from the Amex. You can find the podcast on Twitter at AlwaysPressDFS. I'm on Twitter at BDintric, and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Jesse, how we doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad for a Monday. Not too bad. Any thoughts on this past weekend's golf? Si Woo getting to the winner's circle?
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like everybody and their mom was on him for good reason.
Specialist.
I mean, it's that plus he played well the week before, so I get it. Thankfully, I was too, but you know, it was a fun weekend to watch. You know, golf. I will say that I'm excited for this weekend because there won't be any football to interrupt the golf on Sunday, especially. But yeah, I mean, you know, Si Woo played very well. Patrick Cantlay had an absolutely insane weekend. Makes the cut on the number, and then you know shoots 18 under, and comes up one shot short. Pretty crazy. Davis was right there. Finau again. I guess we'll maybe talk about him a little bit. One other guy I want to mention too, Sung J M. You know, he's a leader after 36 holes. He looked like he was in control until a couple of ill-advised shots and the water got him. We talked about that last week where the water comes into play a lot out there, and I think he'll take that as I hope anyways that he takes it as a learning experience. I think he should have won that golf tournament, but you know it's one of those things where he makes a couple bad shots and you know you're falling down the leaderboard because if you're hitting in the water there, it's not difficult to do, but it's also easy to miss it. Yeah. You know, if you watch that golf course, you know, there's plenty of places to miss it. And that's what you got to do there. You just can't take the big number because you will get lapped. And that's what happened. He ends up losing by 10 shots.
Well, he got Pete died. And that's what we've talked about many times. It's, you know, there's a place to hit the ball and be safe, but you look at it and go, oh, I can clear the water, or I can do this or that. And you try it and you get hosed because it's like the optical illusion of the golf course that Pete Dye designs is pretty crazy. And I think it was Dirework in the Slack chat like last year after a Pete Dye course where everyone was on Sun JM and he tanked. He looked into it and that's like his worst setup is Pete Dye. So maybe there's something to it. I don't know. I usually don't care too much about that for a guy like Sung Jae who's just like a pure ball striker. And, you know, if it's clicking, it's clicking. But maybe there's something to it. It's just one little shot here or there and the whole thing just blows up. I don't know.
Well, I think that a lot of it. So it really came down to, you know, he on Saturday, he comes out birdie, makes a bogey on a par 5, not good, but then makes a birdie on the next par 5, gets the number 9, and I guess blocks one dead right, goes in the water. He has to lay out in a trap right up against this, you know, wooden, basically embankment or whatever to keep the trap from going into the lake. Long story short, his caddy's standing there telling him, listen, let's hit this, make sure we miss it left. You know, and you could just tell like he wasn't listening. I don't know. And then he out of the trap, he tries to get a hybrid up on the green from 225 yards or whatever it was and hits it fat. And it's easy to do out of a trap and right back in the water. And before you know it, you're making a 7 and, you know, we'll see you. So
yeah, it's crazy.
I really hope it's a learning experience, which I think it is because, you know, if we know Sung Jae, he's in the field again this week.
Of course.
Yeah. And, you know, he's one of those guys who's constantly working on his game. So hopefully that mental aspect will come around, you know, sooner rather than later for him too.
When you say the mental aspect, another guy, Max Homa, made his debut this year, and he's been well documented as a Twitter troll in a fun way. Like he's a good Twitter follow. And he mentioned he took the time off and he like sought a guy to help him with his mental game. And then he started working on his swing after that and everything. And he looked a lot better this week, a guy that kind of looked like the Max Homa back when he was winning Wells Fargo in that little stretch. So that'll be something that's interesting to see. There's a lot of good golf. A lot of the chalk missed. You know, Scheffler missed by 1. Come to find out afterwards, he had a new set of clubs. That was fun. New set of clubs going in a tournament. So it's usually like a no-no for the most part. And yeah, that's interesting. But a lot of the chalk tanked, and that made DFS fun. It would have been a really good DFS week. I had a strong 6 of 6 until Charlie Hoffman decided to withdraw. Yet he's in the field this week for the Farmers. So that's a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, he actually played a couple holes. I'm surprised. You know, maybe he tweaked something. Maybe he WDs before this week's over with.
Yeah, it made me feel a little better. And like, I don't want him to be seriously hurt, but it'd be like, okay, that's a little more gratifying. He had a rough bunker shot. It looked like he jammed his wrist or something. That looked like that's why he left the deal. But who knows? Who knows? It's just more the frustrating thing. It's DraftKings. Who cares? But it was just like, oh man, I actually finally had a like Johnny Hutt and stuff in a lineup. Let's go. But we'll see. Well, I'll be playing Johnny Hutt again this week, so we'll talk about that. But with all that being said, before we get into these Farmers Open, I have to ask, have you watched the Tiger doc yet?
No.
Okay, we'll move on. Farmers Insurance Open in La Jolla, California, just south of San Diego. We'll play 2 courses this week. I'll talk about that shortly. 156 golfers, T65 and ties make it to the weekend. What do you got for some past event history?
Yeah, so last year Mark Leishman was the champion, 15 under. He did not I don't think he hit a single fairway all week, at least on Sunday. I don't know if you remember, but he was just hitting everything dead right, and he was still somehow getting up and down and making pars. It was incredible. One shot over John Rahm. 2019 champion was Justin Rose, 21 under, 2 shots over Adam Scott. 2018, Jason Day won the second time, 10 under, playoff over Noren and Palmer. Rahm won this in 2017, 13 under, 3 shots over CH3, another chalk bust last week, and CT Pan. Snedeker's won this twice. Jason Day won it again in 2015. Scott Stallings. Tiger, who should be here this week, had another back surgery. He's not here. Snedeker is past champion. Bubba Watson, 2011 champion. Nick Watney, he might be in the field. I don't know. Phil, who looked like Phil last week, has won this 3 times, but he hasn't won since 2001, so I don't think it really matters.
The senior tour is calling Phil. Like it's looking rougher and rougher for him out there these days with the big boys.
I mean, he just refuses to play
a golf course.
Right. I mean, it's just like all about hitting as far as you possibly can. It's very strange to me. I'm very confused by why but it's Phil. So I wish he would just get in the damn booth. I like listening to him.
Oh, he'd be amazing on that. Or even get a podcast or something so I can listen like his analysis for like once a week, unfiltered, just let him go. Like that would be phenomenal. Like go get him. But he's still a draw. Everyone's gonna want to see him play, but it's pretty rough. And I don't see Torrey Pines doing too well for him. We got the South Course and the North Course. The South Course will be played for 3 rounds, North Course 1. So Thursday, Friday they play one or the other. Then the weekend, both rounds on the South Course. First on the North Course, it's the easier of the 2 golf courses. Par 72, a little less than 7,300 yards. Bent grass greens, about 6,000 square feet, a little bit bigger than the greens on the South Course, and they'll be a little slower than on the South Course. Fairways are still narrow, not too wide, but the rough isn't as penal as the South Course. It's still not great, but it's a shorter course, comes to your advantage. Like 4 of the par 4s are over 475. Everything else, super gettable, super easy. I mentioned the bent grass greens, and then the fairways and rough or Bermuda Rye Kikuya combos. So it's a little different. It's really weird to me having 2 courses next to each other built differently, like with their grasses and everything. It's kind of an odd layout, but that's what they're doing. So you'll get that at least one day. That's the one you want to go low on. Make sure you get your birdies. Otherwise, you play the Torrey Pines South Course, and it's a par 72, right around 7,700 yards, a little bit less, but they had a Reese Jones remodel a year ago to get ready for the U.S. Open. That's this year on this course, and they added more challenging bunkers. Like there's a par 5 you used to be able to run up there real easy, and they put a giant 50-foot bunker right in the middle, so you have to either lay up or go over it. There's other fairway bunkers they've added. They've moved tee boxes back to lengthen it even more. The fairways are super narrow, the narrowest ones we've seen on the fall swing. And like you mentioned with Leishman, usually this rough super penal, he he putted his ass off last year.
Yeah, he did.
That's what it was. Like he was finding the green, but they usually weren't in spots like if you're in the fairway where you can wedge it close. He was just finding the green and making bombs for putts. That's what was saving his butt. But for the South Course, you want to stay out of the rough the most you can. So accuracy off the tee is huge, but distance is huge as well because it is the longest course on tour. So keep that in mind. It is POA greens, which is common on the West Coast in California, so it's different than the North. A little bit smaller, but super fast. So tricky greens is really made Leishman's thing even crazier. It's mainly Kikuya fairways and roughs, Kikuya, whatever you want to call it. That's what I play my local course here, and I hate it. It's the worst. because you can't run up to, like, you can't bounce balls up; they stick. So you have to hit the green. You can run certain things up if you get the right spin, and more often than not, it's sticking, bouncing like once and stopping. Guys will tell you chipping around the green is very tricky in Kikuya because it catches your club. That is the truth. So around the green game is going to be huge. There's 7 par 4s over 450 yards. All 4 par 5s over 560 yards. It's a very challenging course. It's a shot maker's course, but accuracy is going to be very important. And driving distance in the end pays off. I saw some stats that, like, I think you had most winners, not all, but most of the winners here are usually top 30 in driving distance on tour, and you want to be accurate. So it makes sense looking at the leaders you mentioned. Majority of those guys, not Brandt Snedeker, of course, but a few of them, most of those guys are bombers, and that's going to be a trend we see this week. So what stats are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of distance stuff. It makes sense this week. Plenty of course history to weight as well. Off the tee is huge, but like usual, approach game matters. I do weight distance over accuracy, and then it's the scores here. It's I think be a little bit weather dependent, but par is still a pretty good score, especially on the South course, especially this year. I think with all the changes that the USGA, I'm sure, has brought in. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. I would weight bogey avoidance over birdie or better if I were doing that.
Yeah, and a couple of things on the weather. Wind doesn't look to be too bad. I looked at it about a half hour ago for La Jolla, anywhere from 10 to 15 miles an hour, but usually on the lower end of that. But there's a good chance of some rain on Friday. So we might get a Saturday second round finish for the cut sweat. So keep that in mind. And if they get a soft course, that's the other thing with this course. It's so long, but if it's just no roll coming out and it's cold, let's make it even longer. So keep all that kind of stuff in mind. That's why distance is key. A couple things from the PGA stats page I was looking at. The big guys, you got McIlroy and Champ and those guys for distance wise. So that doesn't surprise anybody. Like, you can pull that page up and you're good. But driving accuracy, a name that this is just since the fall swing started. The leader in this field, he's second overall, is James Hahn. So that one kind of stood out to me as driving accuracy leader. Scheffler, Answer, and Brian Stewart are kind of like some of the guys up top there. But just wanted to throw that in as a little extra this week. But before we get to the DraftKings picks, fansharesports.com. Use promo code AlwaysPress for 25% off the package of your choice. Get your goodies there. Last 10 events, par 72, 7,400 are longer. DraftKings scoring, Rory McIlroy, Sung Jae finishes second. Victor Hovland, John Rahm, Tony Finau, Patrick Reed. Common theme there. When you look at top 10 on POA greens, since if you hope to finish the week and you're playing 3 rounds on POA, Rory McIlroy, Adam Scott, Jason Day, Patty Reed, Harry Higgs checks a box, Hideki Matsuyama. So a lot of names you'd expect, a couple surprises, but nothing too crazy like we see on some of these other short courses. It's the big boys that usually show up here. But all right, that'll do it. Let's get to the DraftKings picks for the week. 10K and higher, we have 5 guys, Jesse. John Rahm at 11.3, Rory at 11,000, Finau 10.7. Nice price bump there. Xander at 10.4, and Patty Reed somehow coming in at 10.1. So what do you like in here?
Rahm and Rory. I mean, really, I think Finau will be popular again. I mean, he always is. He has good course history: 6th, 13th, 6th, 4th in his last 4 starts here. I mean, it's pretty good. Should have won last week. I mean, let's be honest. He was, besides Cantlay, the best player in that field, and then has another shitty, relatively speaking, Sunday where he can't putt. This would be more of a tournament, really, that it's not going to be a putting contest, right? So if you're going to play Finau, this is the week to do it. I never get Xander right, so I'm not going to play him. His course history is not great. But I mean, really, it's Rory and John Rahm. Rory finished 3rd here last year, 5th the year before that. He's coming off a 3rd place over at Abu Dhabi. Or is that how you say that?
Abu Dhabi. That's how I say it when I watch UFC. So yeah.
All right. I forgot they were over there too. That was
Fine Island.
Anyways, yeah, man. Speaking of which, great pay-per-view to watch on ESPN Plus if you could get it to work. Anyways, and then John Rahm. So John Rahm, 2nd here last year, 5th year before, 29th has the win back in 2017. Should have played last week, bailed out for whatever reason. 3 straight top 10s. I mean, he's trending towards another win. This is a week where I think that, given the difficulty of the course, I think one of these elite talents wins, right? So I want to have exposure to Rahm and McIlroy. Like last week, I said it. I wouldn't play any. I wasn't going to play anybody above 10K. I ended up playing one Cantlay lineup because I had a little bit of FOMO, and that paid off. As far as he played well, the rest of the lineup sucked, so I didn't pay off for my pocketbook. But what I'm saying is, I really like Rahm or Rory to win this week. I mean, the course is there for these guys who bomb it out there, who are accurate, and it's not a putting contest again. So, that's where I'm at. That's where my head's at currently.
Yeah, I can't argue you on Rahm or Rory. I got Rahm as the guy I want. Rory, you can't argue. If you want to make an argument, he's flying from Abu Dhabi, so maybe he's got some jet lag on that private jet he slept on the whole way. I don't know, but that's like the only argument you can try to make. But these guys are world-class athletes. They have millions of dollars to live in a comfortable lifestyle, so I'm not too worried about flying. Coach. Rahm is the top play for sure. There's no arguing that. Now, if I got to play devil's advocate, I think Tony Finau. This is a chance to get a very low-owned Tony Finau, a guy that's got to win. Like we talked about in the Slack for a while. We talked about it in our chat with Kevin and Randy. He's so close. It's just he didn't even play bad on Sunday. It was just, guys shooting 800 par and stuff. It was.
Well, he couldn't make a putt. He missed a lot of short putts.
Yeah, that doesn't help. He's trying a new putter grip too, which I saw. So we'll see how that goes. But he's made all 6 cuts here. He has 3 top 6s out of that. His worst finish is a 24th. I know that doesn't help when you're paying 10-7, but it's one of those deals that he's such a long driver, usually a pretty accurate driver, which will come in handy here. I think he's a great pivot off of those 2 guys if you want to save some money. I won't have any Xander. And then Patty Reed at 10-1 is going to have 0 ownership. And it's one of those, if you're making a bunch of lineups, he loves playing tough fields. He loves playing tough golf courses. Like he's not the kind of guy that's going to win a 2,200 par course, but if it's like 12, 13 under, Pat Reed can be there. And so that's why he's interesting to me in this type of event. 10-1 is very tough to stomach, but it's just a pure ownership play if you're playing Patty Reed. I think Tony Finau is one of my favorite plays here, but I have Rahm as my top play, so I can't argue that at all. 9K range, you got Harris English at 98, Sanjay at 96, Brooks Koepka 94. Like he is buried down the list here. Hovland making his debut at 93, Matsuyama 92, Wolf 91, and Scheffler off the missed cut at $9,000. Where are you going in the 9K range?
Yeah, start up top with English. His course history is decent. 71st miscut 8th, 14th 31st, 2nd and 73rd with all starts except for 2014. So back to 2013. That's kind of, I mean, it's decent. One miscut in there, and of course, obviously one. What is it? Almost, it's I guess 3 weeks ago, whatever. At the Tournament Champions, and then played Sony. I'm guessing he came back over or whatever. I like him at 98. I think he's fine. Sungjae, I'll play Sungjae again this week, 9,600. 2 made cuts and 2 appearances here. Nothing great, 36, 52nd. But since his kind of a little bit of a lackluster kind of, I just want to say end to the last season, he's starting to come back, and I like that price on him. Wolf at 9,100, I think is playable. Obviously the guy gets it out there plenty far enough to hit it with the guys like Rahm and McIlroy. Finished 21st here last year. He made the cut on the. He was 5 under going into the weekend, and then just didn't have a great weekend. So I think he's fine. Man, I can't believe how high owned Scotty Scheffler was last week at 40% in some contests. I was very surprised to see that. I mean, 9,500, whatever, his price was, but I mean, it'd be interesting to see. He should have no ownership, this week. So if you want to go back to Scotty because he burned you, which is something that, for whatever reason, I wasn't on him last week, but people were. So this is the week to play him. He should have no ownership, especially with these guys mixed in around him. I mean, a lot of big names this week, and Scotty, to me, he's not elite like the rest of these guys. I think he's overpriced in this field even.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he should be in the 8K range here. He's a good golfer. He's a good birdie maker. Not sure this is the event for Scotty, so that means he'll probably win it now that I say that. But
Right. He got the
yeah,
double. He just got the double
yeah,
mush from me and you.
he just got it. But it just seems like an odd situation there for Mr. Scotty Scheffler. But maybe that's just PTSD from when he burned me again last year as well. But 9K range, I love Harris English. Like you said, great course history, really good form. This dude's been one of the best golfers on tour, especially when it comes to approach game. That's going to be huge here. If distance matters, you need to be able to have a good iron play from like 175-ish, give or take. He's going to thrive in this kind of situation. So I think Harris English at 98 is a great play who I think he'll be popular in the 9K range because people are starting to catch on to English. But at the same time, at that price point, you might see a little lower ownership than he deserves. Vic Hovland's interesting. I like the Sanjay Young points you made. He's always in play for me pretty much every week. I think anybody that's listening to this show knows you and I will pretty much pencil in some Sanjay almost every week. But Victor Hovland's interesting. First start at this course, this tournament. Obviously, probably getting some reps in before the U.S. Open. You have a 31st place finish a few weeks ago, and then you finished with a third and a first over in Europe as well. It's an interesting play for me for him because I'm not the biggest Victor guy. He's rough around the greens, but if his ownership's low, he stands out as a guy I'll pencil into a few lineups. And then Matty Wolff, I love at 91. I made jokes about it last week. It looked like he was going to miss the cut because he started out like 2 or 3 over on Thursday. I'm like, oh, thanks for lowering your ownership for next week. I appreciate it. But the way he can hit a golf ball, the distance he can hit a golf ball, it's just the around the green game that really, really hurts him right now, which could hurt at this golf course, no doubt about it. But if he can find it for a week at $9,100, he can make a serious run. So I like him in this 9K range in a GPP to make a push.
I've got Hovland playing here back in 2019.
Oh, my stuff's not updated with that. Okay,
maybe he was an AM then.
Yeah, he would have been an AM. He would have been an AM that year because he became pro. He became pro after the U.S. Open that year at Pebble.
Gotcha.
Yep. So that's what it would have been. All right, let's go to the 8K range now, and we got Siwoo Kim off his W at $8,900, Bubba 88, Leishman 87, J-Day making his season debut at 86, Cam Smith 85, Palmer 84, Scott 83, Billy Ho 82, Zalatoris 81, Fowler 8,000, and Usti 8,000. Fun range here, Jesse. What are you liking here?
Yeah, plenty of guys to play here. Siwoo at the top. I mean, 8,900, that's fine, whatever. I don't mind paying that for Siwoo. 29th, 35th. He did WD here in 2017, but finished 18th. So I mean, when he doesn't WD, which he can do that, but I don't think right now he's going to. I mean, he's playing very well. I mean,
he's playing for an Olympic spot to stay out of the military is what he's playing for.
Which you can't really blame him on that. So obviously coming off the win last week, you guys know about him. Bubba, 8,800. Course history is pretty good. 6th, 23rd, 13th, 1st back in 2011. He had a pretty big gap between that 6th and 23rd. He didn't play here for whatever reason, but he comes back last year and finishes 6th. Hasn't missed a cut since the 3M Open, which was back in July. I think Bubba's fine. Leishman, 8,700, defending champion. Obviously, the course history's there. Coming off a 4th place finish at the Sony Open. So I like him quite a bit. Adam Scott, 8,300. These are the type of, this is where Adam Scott should shine. He hits it down the middle, then he hits on the green. And if he can just make some putts, hopefully he brings the broom putter. Finished 2nd here in 2019. Billy Horschel at 8,200. Hasn't missed a cut here since 2015. Finishes are kind of mixed. I mean, there's a couple 8th place finishes in there, and then basically nothing better than 54th. Out of the 5 years. So 2 8th place finishes, 54th or worse the other 3 years. Boom or bust GPP play, but I like him to be decently low owned given kind of the prices up top. I think this range will potentially be a little bit under owned. And then Zalatoris at 8,100. Missed the cut here in his only appearance in 2018, but for whatever reason, my model loves him. So, there you go. But there's plenty of other guys, man. I mean, Cam Smith, J-Day in here, Palmer, Fowler, Usti, Ricky.
It's a good range.
It is. Ricky, if you look at Ricky, I thought he was going to miss the cut last week. He just made some absolute bombs on Friday to make it, but his course history is #not good. Maybe it's because this is a farmer's
sponsor. That's always
we'll see him on TV. Yep. Maybe he's just going to be doing commercials. I don't know.
That's usually what it is he's always got the obligations to go to like, this meeting and this pro-am, but hey, they don't have that this year.
It's true.
So I'm curious to see how he does because I was watching this like you, like, oh, he's gonna miss the cut again. Come on, Ricky, figure it out. Then he played really good over the weekend. Like he got it together there. $8,000 is pretty cheap for Ricky Fowler. So I don't know. It's like I talked about it on last week's show. We talked about it in the Slack chat. Like we like the core cascade, but I started tweaking it and doing like 2 or 3 core guys. And then with those other 3 or 4 spots, just really rotating in a mix of these kind of spots. And if I do that again, I'll have a Ricky or 2. Like there's no doubt about it, just to see what happens. But yeah, the course history is atrocious. Absolutely like horrible. And then also your Zalatoris comment. Everybody likes Zalatoris. Any weeks he tees it up. It just seems like every model loves him. So that's always interesting. But back to the 8K range, Bubba is very much on my radar. It's kind of ironic for a course where you really need to be accurate off the tee, yet Bubba's the guy. So $8,800 course history is no lie with him. So he stands out. Leishman's coming in good form with that course history, like you mentioned. He's intriguing. It's just beware that he can lose it at any moment because that form going in before Hawaii was very bad. So maybe during the break he figured it out. Just I'm still hesitant on Leash to trust him weekly like we used to type situation. A guy I do like, one of the guys you mentioned, Cam Smith at 85, made 4 straight cuts here, including a 9th 2 years ago, 20th the year before that, coming in with back-to-back. Well, he obviously made the cut at the Tournament Champions, then a 62nd at Sony, where he kind of fell apart on the weekend. That was a weird deal, but I don't mind him. A guy that can hit it farther than most, and will go under the radar here. And then Ryan Palmer, again, West Coast guy, or West Coast tournament guy. 3 straight made cuts here, 21st, 13th, 2nd, coming off that 41st at the Sony, 4th at the Tournament Champions. Everybody was all over him at the Sony. Maybe people forget about him now. We get a low on Ryan Palmer at 84. I like him quite a bit at that price point. And then you mentioned Billy Ho. I think he's a phenomenal GPP ownership play because people will not play him. He's a ball striking extraordinaire, like an iron player. So if he gets it off the tee in the fairway, he can contend at a course like this. I like Billy Ho a lot at 82. 7K range, 75 to 79. Who stands out to you here, Jesse?
Start up top with Cam Champ. Really, really high on him in GBPs this week. He's coming off a missed cut. He played terrible last week. Shot 5 over, then 3 over. So 8 over, and the cut was 4 under. So he only missed it by 12 shots. So it was bad. But I like him to bounce back, and you get him at a discount this week. Obviously, much tougher field, but you get him at a discount, and this should be a course that suits him decently well. He did finish 16th here last year, missed the cut the year before that. Cam Davis, I think he'll be popular. 3 straight made cuts here, coming off a great finish last week, finished 3rd, 64 on Sunday, looked good, got plenty of airtime. You know, he's not going to go under owned, so just keep that in mind. Gary Woodland, I think it's time to go back, man. I think I saw enough last week. 16th last week, $7,700 in that field. He finishes 16th. Has a good weekend. Basically, just a good overall tournament for him. Solid finish there, and his course history here is pretty good. If you throw out the miscut last year, I don't really know what was going on with him at this point, but 9th, 12th, 20th, 18th, 45th, 10th. So a lot of really high finishes there. And again, $100 more than last week after a 16th place finish. I think he's well worth it. I wanted to also click Molinari's name, but I won't do that this week because I think it's just a little bit long for him. Yeah. Gooch, 3 for 3 made cuts here, made the cut the last 3 years. Does have a 3rd place finish here in 2019, coming off a 21st place finish last week. And then Charles Howe III has not missed a cut here. I think I said that last week. And then he goes out and misses the cut. He was there, man. I don't know what happened to him like late.
Fell apart that last round
Friday because I saw him at 4 under, and then next thing I know he's 2 under and going to the house. But definitely I will go back to Charles Howe III. One thing I wanted to mention, I saw a lot of guys tilting in the Slack chat last week, and I totally get it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that or whatever, but I will say that from my experience that whenever I play a guy like Charles Howe, who I consider a safe play, and he misses the cut, I go back to him, the next week because he's going to have less ownership. These guys typically, especially guys as good as Charles Howe is on the West Coast, he's not going to miss a cut more than 1 cut in a row. He's going to figure it out real quick. So Chucky 3 Sticks like him quite a bit at 7,500. Similar with Charlie Hoffman. I really want to see if any news comes out on him, and I don't know that I would play him unless you get some news on him, because I'm not going to be risking that injury on Charlie Hoffman. I mean, it's just whatever. And then Ben Ann, man, at 7,500, two made cuts here in a row. He started really, really hot last week. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see his interview after the round on Thursday?
No, I did not.
He said that he had been, and I fully expected something different, but he said he'd been working on his basically off the tee game in the off season, which is odd, right? Like I was fully expecting to say I've been working on my putting, and that's why I went out and gained. Of course, that round happened on the one course where, for however reason, it's 2021, and there are certain courses where they don't have shot tracker, so we don't have the data. I mean, it's absolutely insane to me. With the PGA Tour, at least this past at the American Express, we did see plenty of shots on the other golf course, which is different because typically they would just have the Pete Dye track, whichever one that was. So a little bit better. And a little bit off topic. Did you see that they're going to start a betting show?
Yes, on NBC it looks like. So I'm curious to see how that goes, because either Twitter's going to embrace the heck out of it or they're going to just clown it. So I'm really curious.
How you don't take Mayo for that though is
I heard Mayo's pod on Friday or on Monday, and he said the right things, but you could tell there was a little snark behind it.
I mean, you got to grab Mayo and Feinberg. If you get those two talking betting, you will get an audience that is engaged, but also will learn some shit too.
Yep.
I don't know if these other guys, I don't know who they are, if they know anything about betting, but everybody who watches golf knows that the announcers typically don't understand where the cut line's going to be.
Yep.
So we're going to expect them to talk about, I mean, hopefully they're getting
live odds.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. But
that's kind of what they said. They said, we would have loved to have done it, but hopefully whoever they have in there actually knows what they're talking about. Because we've seen that show before.
I mean, Mayo's not going to say anything out loud because he gets it. But he's the guy for the job. So
definitely,
hopefully they figure that out before it's too late and someone else has scooped him.
Yep, hopefully. For the 7,500 and up range for me, I love Cam Davis. So you hit on him. He's going to be very popular this week, which sucks. But I'm a big Cam Davis fan, and I'll continue to play him. I think he deserves to be higher priced than this. Bomber, accurate. Like, I want him. Love Gary Woodland as well. We talked about him last week. You hit on it. I think we've seen enough. And he's got the great course history. So no problem with Gary Woodland. And for an accuracy thing, he can hit that 3-wood and run it out there. So that intrigues me a bit as well. Corey Connors, it's a putting thing with Corey Connors. If he can get off the tee just fine, one of the best approach players in all the game. He played her 3 years ago, got 29th, hasn't played her any other time. So not sure what's going on there, but he's one of those guys kind of steady Eddie that usually makes a cut and gives you like a T20-ish type finish. So I don't hate him at 77. You mentioned Gooch. I'll keep going to Grillo. He had a weird weekend, especially on Sunday. Like, it was just a weird go of it. Still finished 37th, though. Missed a cut here last year, then 52nd, 12th, 33rd. He's a phenomenal approach guy. That's always the putting with Grillo. So, and he actually putted well over the weekend. His approach game sucks, so that was interesting. But at 76, he's another guy I'll go to. At CH3, I'm with you there. And then a guy with bad course history, but if you want a cheap EP flyer, I think he's playing much better now. 14th at the Sony, 37th TOC, 8th in his last event in the fall. Missed cut here twice. Carlos Ortiz at 75 has my attention. We saw him win, I think, at Houston in the fall. He's a very good driver of the golf ball, but also a very tilting player at times. So he's definitely GPP only. But I think he's got the upside of $7,500 to make a run for like a T15-ish, maybe better than that finish at this price point. No one's going to own him. So that one intrigues me quite a bit. 7,000 to 7,400. Who stands out to you there, Jesse?
I mean, there's plenty of guys here at 74. Homa's interesting. 9th here last year, 3 straight miscuts before that. Like you said, he's, he was in contention last week, and so they did a little piece on him or whatever. He shot 76 on Sunday. Absolutely terrible round, but other than that, had a good week. So I think he's interesting. He can hit it far enough. Lonto, same kind of boat. Miscut here last year. 2018, he finished 12th, coming off a miscut last week where basically he shot 2 under. So, I mean, it wasn't a great week for him, but I like him better at this course. Alexander Noren, 7,400. Miscut and a second place finish was in 2018. He did miss the cut here You got me on him last week, and he started off really well, and then just kind of faded. Didn't have a great Sunday round, so finished 40th, whatever. Mav McNeely at 7,300, 2 straight made cuts here, 15th here last year, coming off a made cut last week. Terrible Saturday round, just completely threw him out of contention or having any chance, and even par Sunday. Before that, he was 12th at the Mayakoba, miscut the RSM, so he's up and down, but he's got the length also to compete out here if he can just keep it in play. And then at the bottom, John Huh, I know you mentioned him, and I'll let you kind of go off on that a little bit more, but I do like him. And then Matt Jones at 7,000, kind of been on my radar the last couple weeks for really because initially at the Sony Open, Fantasy Labs had a great leverage score on him. And if you don't know what leverage score is, hit me up in the DMs if you want to find out more about what's going on in Fantasy Labs. But basically, they've teamed up with FanShare, so they have really good projections, and then therefore they also have a leverage score, which basically means that based on their points projection and then the ownership projection, there's a good chance that somebody will be. Long story short, on the Sony Open, he had a high one there, so he's been on my radar. So staying on my radar, 7,000 this week.
Yeah, he's got good course history as well, like you said. For me in this range, I don't mind going back to Norton in a GPP, that second place finish, and the way he's playing current form, I like him to bounce back here. Homo, you mentioned Hughes as well. Mac Hughes at $7,300. He can be tilting at times. Miscut, 29th miscut here, but 19th at Sony, 41st at the TOC. If the putter gets going, he can be really good. So 7,300 for Mac Hughes. And then I like this kind of lower 7K range quite a bit. Doug Gim at 72. He had a really good showing at the Amex fifth place finish after a miscut at Sony. Miscut here last year, 29th the year before, or 20th the year before. So Gim appeals to me. I love Johnny Huh. Like, I keep playing this guy over and over again. I'm waiting for the price bump. It just never comes. 21st last week, in the fall swing, 20th, 12th, 48. He's not missing cuts. He's made 6 straight cuts here. He's made 8 of his last 9 cuts here, including 2 top 8 finishes. I just like him a ton at 7K in this range. I'll definitely be playing some Johnny Huh. And then the other 2 guys I have penciled in here, I mentioned him earlier as one of the most accurate guys on tour this fall, and it makes sense because he's 32nd, 41st, miscut 50th, and a bunch of made cuts. That's James Hahn. He appeals to me at 7,100, and then Rusty Knox at 7,000. He's been kind of tilting, but 16th last week after the miscut, 23rd to end the fall swing. He's made 3 straight cuts, including 21st last year. So Knox is another guy I don't mind going to in this lower range. So I think those lower plays there will definitely allow you to go up to like Rahm and company, or you can go to the 6K range. So what do you like in the 6K range? Well,
let's first of all on Russell Knox. Did you see his round on Thursday or Saturday? Sorry,
I saw some quotes and stuff on it. Yes.
I mean, I've never seen that fucking dude make so many feet of putts in my life. He's just rolling him in from all over the place. He got a new putter, which is a good thing for Russell Knox. It's always been his Achilles heel, but I like your call there. As far as the 6K range goes, Harry Higgs, 6,900. I will be on him this week. 9th place here last year, coming off a made cut and a 32nd place finish at the Sony Open, where he opened up really well and finished very well. 65, 71, 67, 65. So he can go low. Luke List, 6,800. Decent showing last week. He made the cut after 4 straight miscuts before that. And the course history is, especially for somebody in the 6K range, pretty good. 3 straight made cuts, 36th, 40th, 12th in his last 3 appearances here. So I think he's okay down here. I'm not a huge fan of the 6K range, but there are a few more. Sam Ryder. Did you watch Did you watch much of the golf this past week? Like, especially on Saturday. I ended up watching a shit ton of it on Saturday.
I didn't watch a lot of Saturday. No, I watched a little Sunday and then Friday.
Sam Ryder was kind of around there, and he's not fun to watch. But after like 47 straight miscuts, he finally made a cut last week, and the guy has potential. He can bomb it. So Sam Ryder at 6,400, and then all the way down at the bottom, 6,100. If you're down here, Ryan Brim, he's made 2 cuts out of 2 appearances here, 49th and 41st. 49th last year, 41st 2017, and 4 straight made cuts on tour, $6,100.
Yeah, Brem's one that we talked about even last week. I was like, I think he's like 6K or 61 then. And it's
Yeah,
like,
he didn't play last week.
oh, the week before then. I know he's.
Mayakoba's last time he played.
Oh, really? Because I know maybe that was long ago when I mentioned him. But I know I've had him written down because he's just been so freaking cheap and
The week's
not
run
flashy,
together.
but he's making cuts.
I'm
But
with you.
yeah, everything runs together right now. That's
For
for sure.
$6,100. I mean,
Yeah, give it a shot.
all right.
For me, Kramer Hickok, he's missed both cuts here, but 21st last week, 19th the week before. He's playing some good golf, finished the year really, really well. So I think he's intriguing at 68. Obviously, if you're down here, you're in a GPP to begin with. So I think he's got that upside in the 6K range. You mentioned List. I like List quite a bit. I'm afraid he'll be chalky this week, but keep an eye on that. Richie Werwinski, another guy I'll target. We usually like him because he putts so well. 21st last week, missed cut 24th. If he's not getting to the green, it's trouble because he's 73rd, missed cut 20th. His 4 trips here, so it's a crapshoot. But if he's getting off the tee, okay, the putter's outstanding, so that'll help him a ton at 6,700. Then a couple others, you're gonna hear Scott Stallings' name a lot. Loves the West Coast, loves POA. He's made 2 straight cuts, and he's made 5 of his last 7 here, including a victory in 2014. He's 6,600. If you're looking for bombers and for GPPs, Johnny Villegas. I mean, no, this is never mind. I got Camille Villegas here, not a bomber. But I had Johnny talked about in the Slack chat. Camille Villegas coming off a missed cut last week after finishing up the fall really, really well. But he's made 2, 4, 6, 8 of 10 cuts here at this event. So he's a guy that he's playing much better since getting his card or his temporary status on the PGA Tour. So I think 6,600 for Camille is interesting as well. You mentioned Brian Stewart, another very accurate driver of the golf ball. He's 6,500. He's made 4 of his last 5 cuts here and 2 straight cuts on tour at the Sony and at the Amex. And then you mentioned Brim and Kevin Tway is another guy playing horrible golf, but he's made like every cut here. So he's $6,100 as well. I'd rather play Brim. Tway's another guy, though, is dirt cheap that loves this golf course. So he's a bomber of the golf ball. So keep that in mind. All right, let's recap things real quick. Jesse, 10K and above, who you got?
Rory.
I'll go John Rahm. 9K range, who's your top play?
Sung Jae.
I'll go Harris English. 8K range, go with 2 guys.
Bubba and Horschel.
I'll go Cam Smith and Ryan Palmer. 75 to 7,900, go 2.
Woodland and Charles Howell III.
I like that. I'll go Cam Davis and Woodland. I love the CH3 call. 7,000 to 7,400, go 2 guys.
I'm going to say Homa and John Huh.
I'm going to go John Huh, and I will go Rusty Knox. But there's a lot I like down there. Who's your top 6K play?
Higgs.
I'm going to go with Kramer Hickok, and we'll see how that goes. Cash game lineups. If you're starting a lineup, give me 3 guys you'd look to start with.
I'd go back to Howell. I'd go back to Charlie. Bubba, I think, is cash game worthy. And then Sung Jae.
Yeah, I go English, Howell, and Griot. Be my 3 cash game guys, so don't sleep tight. GPP, this is a phenomenal GPP week. This is a big-time GPP week. Give me 3 guys you'd start a GPP lineup out with.
Rory, Cam Champ, Ryan Brim.
I got Matty Wolf, Cam Smith, and Cam Davis. And then you could probably put a Rahm or Rory and then, Brim and mix something else in there. But Wolf, Smith, and Davis, the way they can all bomb it and they can run so hot and so cold has my attention. Now, the fun part, and I agree, usually the big dogs are going to win here, so the odds are kind of limited on them. But who you got winning this thing?
I mean, gun to my head, I'm picking Rory, but a little bit longer odds. I don't mind Gary Woodland at 66.
I wrote him down.
I think that's interesting. Ben on at 125. Semi-interesting there. Max as well at 125. If you're looking, super long there, but yeah, I mean, like some of these guys at the top, it's just a top heavy field. I really like Roy or John Rahm, one of the two to. Yeah, going out on a limb, Bubba. Yeah. I'm going out on a limb, man.
They both look good. I wrote down Gary at 66. I think Cam Smith at 50 is also somewhat appealing, but I know I say it a lot. Looking at these longer odds, I think it's a phenomenal T20 week. And I know Kevin writes about those. I know Dyer plays them in the Slack chat. There's so many guys at plus 100 or better odds that I could see some top 20 plays on that you could have a lot of fun with, especially like some of these guys in the 200 to 1 ranges and everything. You can get some good, like Luke List is 200 to 1. You can play him for a top 20. See what happens. Like there's some definite leverage here. Question for you. Chalky Sepp Straka failed us last week. Do you go back to him at like no ownership this week?
I didn't want to mention it. I know there was some major tilt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 20% owned Sepp Straka is not somebody I ever want to play. So you should have much lower ownership. His course history is okay. I don't mind it.
Yeah, miscut 13th is 2 trips here. Before last week's miscut, he was pretty much a cut making machine for a little while there. I think that's $7,100. That's a guy that coming in low ownership, you can get some different. Because I love Johnny Huh at 7,000, but I think people are starting to finally figure out who he is. So that's where your Matt Jones play.
Well, I can tell you one thing with Huh is he's on Mayo's radar.
Oh well, yeah, there goes that.
So he's gonna get that bump. So keep that in mind if you do play him or whatever. But yeah, I was super surprised at Sepp Straka's.
Yeah, that's crazy. The other guy we didn't talk about on the low 7K. What about Doc Redmond at 71, who just didn't do anything over the weekend?
Yeah, Doc's okay at 71. There was another guy down there below 7 too, who I was looking at. Kramer Hickok at 68. 2 straight miscuts here, but
playing good golf.
Playing some pretty good golf there too. JB Holmes, man, 6,900.
Where's he been though? Isn't he even hurt, or what's his deal? Because he hasn't played in a while.
I don't know. He hasn't played since Shriners. He missed the cut. He didn't play hardly much at all. I mean, it was a weird year for him last year. So, but he's a guy on the West Coast who can play pretty well, and his course history is pretty good.
So this is a perfect tournament for JB Holmes, and that's why I was just sitting there going, "Where the heck's he been?" Because I'd like to see at least a round or two under his belt. I think he's been hurt. Yeah,
I mean, he's kind of in the same boat as Woodland at this point.
True.
It's kind of a wait and see type of thing, but he's not as good as Woodland. So I'm not saying.
Like if you're doing a mass multi-entry, maybe even more than a 20 max, sure, take some JB Holmes. In my 20 max, in my 20 max, I don't even think I can stomach a JB.
I don't know that I would go. I don't know because it's really just it's not. He's going to be less than 1% owned, maybe 1% owned max. So your risk reward. I mean, while the reward would be super high, you're very risky in that spot.
Yeah.
So
true. I feel you there. Any final thoughts as we wrap it up for the week?
I don't. Again, just super happy to have some golf that everybody's going to pay attention to this week. So should be fun. Plenty of big contests on DK.
Yeah, fun tournament. Torrey Pines is always a blast. Plus, watch it now. Get ready for the summer when the U.S. Open's there and all that good stuff. So check out Jesse on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. I'm on Twitter at BDintric, the podcast at Always Press DFS. If you can rate and review on iTunes, we'd really appreciate it. But for now, this was the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast, previewing the 2021 Farmers Insurance Open. Catch you guys later.